LSU has suddenly become the fly in the ointment of the SEC. I mean, Brian Kelly, had a couple of tough losses earlier in the year, but now all of a sudden they knock off Alabama, and they knock off Alabama. See, I'm not a fan of this. We've talked about this moment, these kind of moments before. I'm a fan of if the other team has scored a touchdown in overtime and kicked the extra point, and you score a touchdown in overtime and kick the extra point, until you're forced to go for two, I believe you stay in the game. I mean, meaning kick that extra point. But we saw how that blew up in their face against, what was it, Florida State in the opener this year. I'm talking about for LSU. That decision to go for the 2-point conversion and end it there. Tell me about a coach standing on the sideline and you make that call. The second you make that call, boom, this is it. I mean, I would think your rear end starts to pucker, your guts start to roll, your brain, I don't know. Put me in that situation. You've been there. Put me in that situation where the game is on the line. That one play is going to decide not just the result of a game, but the result probably of a season, a feel-good season. Put me there, and then to see it, come to fruition, how that makes you feel.
Well, I've always been a believer in preparation, and you prepare for that moment mentally as a coach. If you're in that situation, I would always list I would actually call it checkmate moment. The checkmate moments are when you take analytics and you throw it away and you go with your gut. And I would always list the reasons why. First of all, talent. If the other team's more talented than you are and you have a chance to end the game, just like when you're playing chess, you have a chance to checkmate it, do it. You got to do it, because the longer it goes, eventually talent wins. So take it. Number two is home or away. He was home. Usually if you're away, you try to end it as fast as you can, because once again, the crowd and everything gets involved. So it's talent, home or away, and then momentum. If you have that team on the heels and you're pushing them around a little bit, 3 yards doesn't seem as bad as 3 yards when you're facing a team you can't get an inch.
Yeah.
And so those three things and I'd write them down. The other ones were I'd have little bullet points like injuries. Are we healthy? I remember I ran a fake punt against Georgia one year in the fourth quarter, and everybody said, "You're nuts. Why'd you do that?" It's because I knew my linebacker had an ankle sprain. My safety had a deep thigh contusion that he had about another 2 series. We were done. And we're winning 14-10. And I just remember looking down on my sheet that I always carried with me, and I saw injuries. And I said, oh, man. So I called a fake punt. We got it, and we ended the game. Because if we had to go back on defense, I think we lose that game.
Yeah.
So Brian Kelly's not a good coach, a great coach, winningest coach in Notre Dame history.
Yeah.
You knew at some point if those players would buy into his, I'm sure, a little bit different style. But checkmate moments, I think for the viewer and for listeners, a guy like Brian Kelly's rehearsed that in his mind. That he's not some rookie coach of Bowling Green like I was, and hey, let's try this.
Yeah.
Once you've been through the ringer a few times, in your mind, you have to be prepared for the blowback in case it doesn't work. And I'll say the last thing about this. I saw his post-game speech, and I did that every year with our players. I said, don't be, understand we're aggressive here. It's a little bit like we went for it on 4th down against the team up north in the second overtime. Analytics says kick the ball. But I knew that, that we're facing one of the best teams in the country. Let's end this thing right here. I mean, if we can't get a yard, then we don't deserve to win this game anyway. So there's a lot of variables involved. But you try to rehearse it in your mind, too.
Yeah, but as you stand there and you watch the play unfold, what's in your gut? Are your guts rolling? What are they doing?
Yeah,
it's kind of like facing the firing squad a little bit. Maybe they'll miss. Go ahead now.
Yeah, I tell people someday when you pass away, they do an autopsy on you. I know this is a pretty graphic way of looking at it, but they're going to look and say, my God, what happened to this guy? When that must be the 2016 overtime against the Wolverines. That must be the, national champ. That must be the 4th down against, that was the decision to go for 2 against, Alabama. And it's everything you said. And I remember my mouth would go completely dry and my heart would start racing in those situations. But I would try to, you got to focus on the task at hand, and let's make the right decision for your team.
Yeah. Well, Urban Meyer, appreciate you joining me again, man, on Urban's Take. And let's do this again next week as you guys follow, you guys, especially Fox Big Noon. Y'all are going to be following the next big game in the country, Ohio State versus Michigan. It looks like it's a collision course, but like you said, Michigan beware Illinois, Ohio State beware, well, Indiana, but definitely that trip to Maryland next week. I mean, this collision still has to jump some hurdles, doesn't it?
It does. I have so much confidence. I think both coaches are excellent that they're going to take. I think Ohio State's that talented. I don't think talent-wise, it's people are even close. It's just the weather and ability. I think the ability to run the ball and keep CJ involved in the run game.
Gotcha. Well, ladies and gentlemen, college football fans, until next week for Urban's Take, we'll see you then.